Late at night, reporter Melvin is visited by Doherty, DHY, an employee from the pharmaceutical company BTH. She reveals that BTH has been causing massive waste contamination, which has led to animal mutations and potential health problems for the local population. Melvin and DHY plan to expose the company's crimes. Suddenly, they see on the security cameras that the building has been surrounded by the Killer Nuts, a violent gang and popular band paid by BTH. Melvin tells DHY to run before yelling at the gang to keep their attention on him. Unfortunately, Doherty finds the stairs blocked, so she has to jump over the railing to escape. The memory drive with all the intel she stole from the company breaks as she lands. In the office, the Killer Nuts break in and shoot Melvin several times. He manages to stand up, so they shoot him again. He still keeps moving, so this time they shoot a trident at him, which sends him flying through the window. Outside, DHY sees Melvin die as he lands and runs away. Winston's day and a life-changing diagnosis. In the morning, Winston wakes up for another day of work. Since his wife died, he's been taking care of his stepson, Wade, but their relationship is strained. As they leave the house, Winston sees Spence harassing his neighbor, Daisy, to make her sell her property. Spence makes threatening comments until she agrees. Before leaving, he throws Daisy's cat into the middle of the street. Winston immediately runs to rescue the kitty, narrowly avoiding being hit by a car. Wade walks away, and when Winston catches up, the kid snaps at him, complaining because Winston didn't defend Daisy. Winston has to explain that sometimes there's nothing they can do. Afterward, Winston goes to the BTH factory where he works as a janitor. Alarms often ring and he can hear people screaming, but he stays out of it. After his shift, Winston goes to the doctor for his test results. He is given the devastating news that he has an aggressive brain tumor and only has 1 year left to live. Surgery is impossible, and the only medical treatment is incredibly expensive. Winston calls his insurance company only to learn they won't cover this kind of treatment, even with his platinum plan. Robert's fury and Dee's escape. Meanwhile, the owner of BTH, Robert, is furious because the company's stocks are plunging. There is a lot of talk about his illegal deals and the dumping of toxic sludge. His brother, Fritz, is the head of security and manages the Killer Nuts. Robert smashes his TV when he hears they failed to kill Doherty and tells Fritz to fix it immediately. Fritz interrupts the band's rehearsal and sends them after Doherty. The thugs break into her house and destroy everything trying to find her, to no avail. DHY, who was across the street, waits until they're gone to go home. Her roommate yells at her, but DHY only has eyes for a fake panel on the floor. Her bag is still hidden there, and she announces she isn't coming back. At school, Wade tries to audition for the talent show but gets too nervous and leaves the stage. A video of the failure appears online, and everyone makes fun of him. At home, Winston tries to cheer Wade up by putting on a tutu to dance, but the boy is not amused. Wade notices a medical file on the table, but Winston quickly takes it away before he can read it. Winston later throws the file in the trash and goes out for a drink. The confrontation and the heist. At a special event, Robert is scolded by business partners, including the mayor. Suddenly, Spence drags Robert to a private table to talk to his powerful mobster father, Thard, who yells at Robert for late payments on a loan to BTH. Later, Robert ignores his problems to brag while receiving an award. At that moment, Winston sneaks in and approaches Robert, explaining he has worked for him for 13 years and deserves better insurance. Robert tells his assistant, Kissy, to take care of it. Kissy takes Winston outside, promises to discuss things, but locks the door in his face and leaves. Winston hears her and Robert mocking him. A furious Winston goes to BTH, where Doherty is watching. When she sees the door open for him, she uses the chance to sneak in. She triggers a security breach alert, and Fritz calls the Killer Nuts. While DHY uses tools to get a sample of the harmful waste, Winston dips his mop in radioactive sludge and uses it to threaten the night guard, forcing him to put all the company money in a bag. On his way out, Winston accidentally bumps into DHY, and her sample falls on the money bag, which instantly sets it on fire. The Nuts appear behind them, so DHY picks up Winston's id, and they both start running. The road is blocked by a fence. DHY easily jumps over and tries to help Winston, but he doesn't move fast enough. Since the gang is closing in, she has no choice but to leave. The thugs surround Winston and shoot him in the face. Fritz notices their mistake. They were supposed to capture him, and screams at them, ordering them to clean up the mess. Winston's body and his mop are dumped into a pool of radioactive waste to dispose of the evidence. DHY, watching from afar, sees the toxic sludge enter Winston's body, which immediately revives and completely mutates him. When he crawls out of the pool, he is a deformed, green creature, and he screams in horror at his own appearance. He tries to go home and sees Daisy signing the property papers for Spence. Not wanting to be seen, Winston takes the fire escape to reach his apartment window. Inside, Wade is calling 911 because his stepfather has disappeared. When he sees the monster at the window, he panics and throws an object at his face, causing Winston to fall and land right on top of Spence's car. Hearing the alarm, Spence checks his car and is horrified to see Winston, so he opens fire. However, Winston's new mutated body simply pushes the bullet out, and the wound instantly heals. A furious Winston grabs Spence's arm and rips it off as people on the street begin recording him on their phones. Winston quickly runs away, and Daisy seizes the chance to get her papers back from the injured Spence. When the police arrive, the crowd gives exaggerated descriptions of Winston, calling him a fiend and a demon. The cop fires his gun in the air and announces they are starting a mob. The crazed crowd chases after Winston with torches, forcing him to hide in the forest, where he passes out. The Toxic Avenger saves the day. The next morning, Winston wakes up in a camp belonging to a hobo named Guthrie, who is surprisingly not scared of him. Guthrie has the mop and gives it back to Winston, saying it must be used responsibly. Meanwhile, Wade is watching TV and discovers the authorities are looking for the monster he saw. He calls the station to share information. At a fast food joint, a right-wing extremist group called the Nasty Lads has taken over the building and is holding clients hostage to protest a name change from Mr. Meat to Miss Meat. When a detective tries to reason with the leader, the guy opens fire. Winston sneaks back into town and sees all the chaos. A blind client insults the Nasty Lads and throws her drink at the leader. As he's about to shoot her, Winston breaks in through the back door and hits the leader with the mop, causing him to lose half of his face. Winston starts attacking all the lads, killing them one by one, even tearing a guy's intestines out through his rear in a very gory fight. After the fight, all the hostages are allowed to go out. When the police get ready to shoot Winston, the hostages defend him, calling him their hero. A reporter immediately asks him questions for the camera, and Wade recognizes Winston's voice. Spence also sees him on TV and identifies him as the man who hurt him, leading Thard to send his men after Winston. Winston is now adored by everyone, and people even take selfies with him. Later, when he stops to relieve himself, he discovers that his pee is acidic. The media begins speculating if BTH caused the transformation and starts calling him the Toxic Avenger, or just Toxic. Robert's discovery and the mop's healing power. Robert is furious at Kissy and Fritz for letting DHY escape and suspects Winston was working with her. He's also unhappy about the media attention on the new hero, but a closer look makes him realize that the mutated creature and the janitor are the same man because they are wearing the same tutu from the night before. Realizing his own chemical pool caused this, Robert asks his scientists for an explanation. They tell him the mutation was caused by mixing their toxic waste with an extremely rare genetic marker. Robert wants them to recreate the mutation, but they will need to capture Winston first. In the meantime, DHY goes to Winston's apartment, and Wade lets her in after seeing his stepfather's ID. DHY tells him what happened at the factory and shares that her mother died from exposure to the toxic waste. Suddenly, the killer nuts burst into the apartment. DHY helps Wade escape by climbing out the window. A thug manages to shoot at Wade just in time to put a tracker on his leg. On the street, the duo bumps into Winston, who finally tells Wade about his cancer. The conversation is interrupted by Thad's men, who shoot Winston down. DHY drags Wade away while Winston recovers and kills his attacker with the mop before running away. In the woods, Wade hears a beeping noise, and they find the tracker. The nuts arrive and shoot DHY down before capturing the boy. Back at an abandoned building, Winston checks his wounds. The bullets are already out, but the holes haven't closed yet. The rest of Thad's men are coming for him, so he hides in a pile of trash bags and attacks the first thug by surprise. He then uses the body as a puppet to distract and kill another thug. Lastly, he jumps on the thug's car and rips the driver's head off, running over it as he drives away. Afterward, Winston finds Doherty and takes her to the hobo camp. Guthrie, who mentioned he was a doctor before losing everything, does nothing to help. Winston has no choice but to pour his blood into Dee's wound to heal her. When she wakes up, she agrees to team up with Winston, Wade, in the showdown. In the Nuts van, Fritz tells Wade not to be scared because he only wants Winston. Wade gets angry and says that at least Winston loves him, finally calling him Dad. He tells Fritz he doesn't have anyone who loves him that much, which makes Fritz very upset. Meanwhile, a furious Thard calls Robert to complain about Winston, blaming BTH for his existence. Thard wants to punish Robert, who sees Fritz arrive with Wade and assures Thard he has everything under control. Sometime later, the Killer Nuts are putting on a show. DHY disconnects the band's microphone and replaces it with Winston's. Winston walks through the crowd while singing the band's most popular song. He makes his way to the stage as the crowd cheers for him, even showing him the private parts. The singer gets angry because the crowd likes Winston more and shoots him, only for Winston to rip the top of his head off with his mop. The crowd runs away in panic, and the rest of the band goes after Winston for revenge. He dodges an attack from a man who falls off the stage and instantly dies. Then Winston throws the mop, which goes through another musician's head and lands on the mixer table, electrocutes the DJ. The guitarist is brought down with a few blows, and Winston rips off his beard to force him to eat it. The crowd stares in shock, unsure if their hero is, after all, a monster. Winston uses this moment to tell them the truth about the Killer Nuts band and the BTH company's crimes. The last band member tries to run away, but DHY hits him with a wooden plank. Winston grabs the guy, tears off his mask, revealing a tiny head underneath, and demands to know where his son is. The squeaky voice tells him where to find Wade. Moments later, the duo arrives at Robert's mansion. Winston pulls out his own eye to survey the area, spotting two guards. DHY tries to flirt with the guards, who become so nervous in the presence of a woman that they accidentally shoot each other. The final showdown. Trapped in the garden shed, Wade sees Winston coming and tries to warn him of the danger, but it's too late. A Robert statue blows sleeping gas at the duo. When they wake up, they are chained in the lab. The scientists take a sample of Winston's blood and try to make a serum for Robert. The first attempts are failures, but Robert forces them to continue the painful extractions until they finally create a serum that is in the right range of Mitonix. There is a catch, but Robert refuses to hear it and takes the bottle away. At that moment, Thard arrives with his men and turns on the news. Winston's violent outburst at the concert is all over the media, and the mayor announces she will no longer support BTH. Thard is ready to punish Robert for failing to handle the issue as promised. Robert, under pressure, drinks the serum. Initially, his transformation isn't extreme, but he becomes faster and stronger. He savagely kills Thard and his men in just a few seconds. When Kissy comes looking for him, his transformation is complete, and he now looks more monster-like. Kissy wants the serum too, but only a few drops are left. Soon, Robert starts feeling sick. The scientists point out that the serum was not ready. Kissy yells at them for a fix and orders the guards to kill all their hostages, including Wade. Fritz is horrified. He notices Kissy has also been slightly affected by the serum, and he tries to block the guards, arguing that this monster is no longer Robert. A furious Kissy kicks Fritz in the groin and beats him with a metal rod. In the cell, DHY overhears the plan to kill Wade and convinces Winston to fight. When pulling on the chains fails, Winston remembers his acidic pee, and he frees both of them by urinating on the chains. While DHY steals a computer to get the proof she needs, Winston punches the door down and retrieves his mop. Outside, two guards approach the shed. Winston yells to get their attention, throws a rock at one man's face, killing him instantly. The other guard opens fire, and a bullet accidentally hits a gas tank, causing a huge explosion that blows up the shed. The shockwave throws Winston back, and he screams in despair, thinking Wade is dead. Justice served. Then Robert shows up with an axe and starts fighting Winston. They exchange blows until their weapons get stuck, and the radioactive mop starts cutting through the axe. Robert disarms Winston and tries to decapitate him, but the axe fails due to the toxic damage. Winston retrieves the mop and burns Robert's face, forcing him to run. A chase ensues, and the men roll down the hill. Meanwhile, DHY returns to the car, but Kissy surprises her from behind and tries to choke her with chains. After a struggle, Kissy drops DHY, who immediately comes back to fight. Kissy gets distracted seeing Robert and Winston fighting nearby, so DHY hits her in the head with a toilet to knock her down. At the same time, Robert knocks down Winston, but when he's about to kill him, DHY hits him with a toilet too. Refusing to give up, Robert slashes a container of toxic waste. Winston breaks his axe, tackles him, and repeatedly punches him in the face. He then grabs him by the neck to choke him but is interrupted by Wade appearing and calling him Dad. It turns out Fritz used a hidden tunnel to save the boy. Robert takes the chance to attack again, so Winston uses his mop to throw him onto the car. Robert's head goes through the hood, and DHY starts the engine to shred him. Afterward, Winston tries to reunite with Wade, only for Kissy to stab him from behind. When Fritz tries to stop her, his throat is also slashed. Winston tackles Kissy, and they fall onto the spilled waste, causing a big explosion that kills her. The Toxic Avengers reward. Sometime later, Winston wakes up in the hospital. The blind woman from the burger joint incident is there, revealing she is a special agent. They watch the news, which confirms that DHY performed a data dump that exposed the BTH conspiracy. Even the mayor and some cops are involved. The agent explains she has been after BTH for years and is so thankful for Winston's help that he won't be arrested for his crimes. The doctor then informs him that his mutations have cured his cancer. When Winston leaves the hospital, Daisy and a crowd are waiting to thank him for saving the city. Even Wade hugs him for the first time. DHY says goodbye to him from afar. In another room, Fritz is being guarded by a cop, and Kissy wakes up. When it's time for the school talent show, Wade is finally brave enough to perform, and Winston proudly supports him from the back. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.